ever heard of? Like a building passport?
A what?
Yeah, a passport. But not for people, for
Yeah.
buildings.
Okay, you've got my attention.
It's all about this thing called the circular economy and using tech to, like, I don't know, track all the stuff that goes into making a building so we can, reuse it later. Sounds wild, right?
Actually, it's a pretty fascinating concept, and it's becoming increasingly relevant as we try to, be more sustainable and reduce waste.
Right, and that's exactly what today's deep dive is all about. We're going to be taking a look at this company called Madaster. They're like the pioneers, this whole building passport thing.
Yeah.
And we're going to see how they hired a super important person for their team.
A business development manager, to be exact.
Yeah, that's the one. And get this, they did it crazy fast.
Yeah.
Like 8 weeks fast.
Yeah, 8 weeks is incredibly quick for a senior role, especially in a field as specialized as this.
Okay, so before we get too deep into it, can you break down this whole circular economy thing for us? I mean, I think I get the general idea, but what does it actually look like in practice?
Sure. So basically, it's a shift away from the traditional linear economy, that take, make, dispose model that we've been using for forever.
Yeah, use it and toss it.
Exactly. The circular economy is all about keeping resources in use for as long as possible. So instead of just demolishing a building and sending all those materials to a landfill,
Which is, kind of a bummer for the planet.
yeah, it's not ideal. Instead, you deconstruct the building and then reuse those materials for new projects. It's like giving those resources a second life.
Makes sense. So how does Madaster fit into all of this?
Well, they've created a digital platform that allows you to track materials throughout their entire life cycle. Think of it as that building passport you mentioned earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Each material, like wood, metal, concrete, whatever, gets its own digital record with all sorts of info, where it came from, how it was used, even its potential for reuse.
So a super detailed history of every single piece of the building.
Pretty much. And this transparency is super valuable. It helps companies make better decisions about, how they use and manage resources.
Okay, so that's the big picture. But let's zoom in on this case study now. We know they were hiring a business development manager. What made this particular role, so challenging to fill?
Well, for starters, they needed someone who understood both real estate and prop tech.
Prop tech, I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, it's basically property technology. It's all about using technology to innovate in the real estate industry. So things like online platforms for buying and selling property, using data to make smarter investment decisions, that kind of stuff. But on top of that, they also needed someone with a solid understanding of ESG principles.
ESG.
Environmental, social, and governance. It's all about making sure businesses are operating in a, sustainable and ethical way.
Got it. So they needed someone who not only knew real estate, but also understood how to use technology to make it more sustainable.
Right. And then on top of all that, they also wanted someone with experience in SaaS, software as a service, because Madaster's platform is software-based.
Wow, that's like a whole bunch of specific skills. No wonder it was a tough search.
Yeah, it was quite a challenge.
So how did they actually find this person? Did they put up a job ad on monster.com or something?
They might have, but the case study doesn't really go into the details of where they posted the job. What it does highlight is how they narrowed down the candidate pool.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's get into that.
So they started with a ton of applications.
A ton?
Yeah, 580 to be exact.
Whoa. That's a lot to sift through.
Yeah, so they had to be pretty strategic about their approach. The first step was the usual screening, looking at resumes, cover letters, making sure people had the basic qualifications.
Right. Got to weed out the folks who think ESG is like a new type of yoga.
Exactly. But what's really interesting is that they went beyond the typical interview process. They used something called an expert evaluation assessment.
Okay, now we're getting to the good stuff. What is that? Some kind of secret test?
Well, not exactly secret, but definitely unique. Basically, they brought in industry experts, people who really knew their stuff when it came to real estate, prop tech, and sustainability.
Okay, so these experts weren't part of the master team.
Right. They were external.
Yeah.
And they helped design and conduct these assessments to evaluate the candidate's abilities in a more practical, hands-on way.
So it wasn't just talking about their skills on a resume. They actually had to prove they could do the work.
Exactly. It was a way to, really test their problem-solving skills and see how they would approach real-world challenges.
That's actually a pretty cool idea. A lot of job interviews can feel kind of artificial, right? Like you're just reciting your resume and trying to sound impressive.
Yeah, it can be tough to gauge someone's actual abilities from a traditional interview.
So this expert evaluation assessment probably helped them narrow things down pretty quickly.
Right. Oh, for sure. It allowed them to see which candidates not only had the right experience on paper, but could also, actually apply that knowledge in a practical setting.
So they went from 580 applications down to how many?
Just one.
Just one. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a testament to how well-designed their process was. They were able to find the perfect candidate, and they did it all in just 8 weeks.
Okay, but were they actually happy with the person they hired? Was this whole process a success?
The case study says Madaster was super happy. They felt like they had found an excellent candidate, someone who could really lead their business development efforts and help them achieve their goals.
So they found the right person, and they did it in record time. That's a win-win.
Definitely. And it really highlights the importance of, having a well-defined hiring process, especially when you're looking for someone with a very specific set of skills.
It shows that, sustainability is becoming a bigger and bigger priority for businesses, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as more companies adopt these circular economy principles, the demand for professionals who understand this stuff is only going to grow.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so today we've learned about this super cool concept of the circular economy. We've seen how Madaster is using technology to make it a reality, and we've gotten a glimpse into their, super efficient hiring process.
Yep. Pretty much sums it up.
But, thinking about all this, it makes you wonder about the future. I mean, if we can track and reuse building materials, could we do the same thing for other industries too? Like, what about clothes or electronics or even food? Could this type of digital tracking be the key to a truly sustainable future?
That's a great question. And it's definitely something to think about. The possibilities are pretty exciting.
Yeah. Who knows what the future holds?
Exactly.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. And to all our listeners out there, keep thinking about these big ideas. The future of sustainability is in our hands.
And on our hard drives.
Right. And on our hard drives. Until next time.
See you then.